the larger, longer-ranged, and more comfortable counterpart to the Class F shuttlecraft, its more common and smaller counterpart and contemporary, the Class E shuttlecraft was a warp-capable design of Starfleet small craft built to serve aboard larger vessels and space stations in limited numbers to provide long-ranged and warp-capable transport to ease crew transfers and communication with Starfleet. Measuring in at 14 meters long, 10 wide, and 4 tall, the craft was substantially larger than most shuttles that had come before it. Much of this increased size was due to the inclusion of a large matter-antimatter battery pack to provide the energy needed for prolonged travel at speeds up to warp factor 5. The ship had a crew of 2, a pilot and flight engineer, and could carry up to 6 passengers, though 4 was more typical on long-ranged flights, as that allowed more legroom and a small galley and head to be fitted aft. The ship had a range at warp factor 4 of 45 light-years, though at a more typical warp 5, a Class E shuttlecraft could manage just 20 light-years. In the 2250s, Starfleet began looking at replacing the earlier Class D shuttlecrafts it had used since the 2220s throughout its fleet. Initially, it was planned to produce a generally similar, if not mildly updated Class D design. However, a small but vocal faction put forward the idea that a large shuttle should be produced alongside a more conventional model instead. The argument went that recent advances in power storage efficiency and miniaturized warp field projectors would allow a shuttle to achieve mid-level warp speeds for several days rather than the more paltry speeds existing shuttles managed, which allowed little more than hops between nearby star systems, or more often travel within a star system. The debate between those wanting to build just a single type and those wanting to build this proposed new type was polite and mainly broke down into factions based on cost. Eventually, a compromise was reached that would allow a limited production run of the type to be built to test its feasibility. The Class E began entering limited service in 2253 with an initial production run of 100 production models and 3 pre-production models. Testing was carried out aboard the starships USS Hornet, USS Exeter, USS Amsterdam, and the USS Alliance, as well as the Deep Space Station K3 and the Horizon Station. It was quickly found, as had been expected, that the small USS Amsterdam had shuttle bays too cramped to easily handle the size of something like the Class E. With this initial testing showing that the shuttle design worked as intended, even if it came at the cost of being a bit too large for the majority of Starfleet ships, and a second batch of the craft were ordered to be deployed aboard all larger Starfleet vessels from the large cruisers upwards. Some support ships, among them the new Ptolemy-class tugs, would also receive a pair of the ships. The Class E would give generally good service during the 3 decades of the 2250s, 60s, and 70s, with at least a pair of them embarked aboard the largest Starfleet ships. They were used like any other shuttle, just at longer ranges than was typical of the average shuttle design of the period. While generally well regarded, the shuttle did suffer the fairly significant design flaw of having a limited lifespan, with the stresses of warp flight wearing out the modest space frame of the Class E in fairly short order, requiring that they be withdrawn from service and replaced with new examples. Production of the type ended in 2268, and the class was gradually withdrawn from service during the 2270s, and replaced with new designs of warp-capable shuttles, such as the Warp Sled and the new Type 4. Widely considered the most attractive-looking Starfleet small craft to ever serve, the Class E was an interesting and effective design which gave good service during an interesting period of the Federation's history. The ships were popular in service, and many have been preserved both in museums and in private hands. The ship's use of matter-antimatter batteries to provide power would prove to be a technological dead end, with the effective miniaturization of reactor designs in the late 22nd century, allowing succeeding shuttle designs to achieve the same speeds or higher of the Class E, but with their own small reactors powering them, greatly extending their range and power output at peak levels. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, then subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. And if you didn't know, the channel is running a contest for the next few weeks. To enter, write a review of a ship of your own. The ship can be from any universe and either an existing class or one you made up. Send your completed review to the email address in the video description, and you're entered. Simple as that. Now this really is all for the video. Goodbye and have a good day.